The Galactic Empire had traversed the vast stretches of the cosmos for millennia, leaving a trail of conquered worlds in its wake. Spanning 1,000 galaxies, its power was unmatched, and its fleets were a force of nature, as formidable as they were cold. The Empire's leadership, known as the High Command, saw itself as the pinnacle of civilization. Their ideology was clear: order through dominance. The species they encountered, lesser creatures in their eyes, were simply obstacles to be swept aside in the name of progress. But there was one world that had remained out of their reach, a planet on the fringes of a spiral galaxy, far from the Empire's established domain: Earth. The Empire's scouts, using their state-of-the-art sensors, had long known of its existence but had dismissed it. The humans, primitive and divided, with their limited technology, were deemed unworthy of attention. For centuries, Earth had languished in the darkness of the Empire's indifference. But something had changed. A shift in the electromagnetic spectrum caught the attention of the Empire's most astute scientists. They detected a signal, unmistakably artificial. It was a series of faint, structured transmissions, chaotic yet purposeful. To the Empire, it was an anomaly, a sign of intelligence. The report made its way to the Supreme Executor, Velkan, a figure of towering intellect and ruthless efficiency. Known for her icy demeanor and unyielding ambition, Velkan was the architect of the Empire's expansion. She had crushed countless rebellions, bent entire star systems to her will, and was revered by her subordinates. Yet, the discovery of Earth intrigued her. What was this world that had managed to produce such transmissions? What lay in its depths, beneath the surface of a seemingly inconsequential civilization? Her thoughts raced as she read through the initial findings. Earth, a small blue and green planet, teeming with life, was home to a species called humans. They were fragile, their physical forms weak compared to the beings of the Empire. Their technology was in its infancy, barely scraping the surface of interstellar travel. And yet, they had sent signals across the void, signals that spoke of ambition, of intelligence, of potential. The decision was swift. Earth would be added to the Empire's dominion, like so many other worlds before it. Velkan believed the humans, once assimilated, would become useful subjects, serving the Empire's grand design. Their technology could be harvested, their resources extracted, their cities transformed into gleaming monuments to imperial might. The humans' existence, while quaint, was of no consequence. To Velkan, they were little more than a new piece in the Empire's sprawling chessboard. The invasion was planned meticulously. The Empire's grand fleet, led by Velkan herself, would arrive at Earth's orbit within months. First, they would send a diplomatic envoy, a small contingent to initiate contact, to gauge the humans' reactions. If they were willing to submit, the Empire would offer them a place under the banner of the Empire. If not, well, the humans would soon learn the cost of defiance. On Earth, few knew of the storm approaching. Governments around the world had been preoccupied with their own struggles. Tensions between nations, economic crises, and the ongoing fight against climate change. The idea that a vast alien empire might be watching, waiting, seemed as far-fetched as the stories of ancient gods. But the moment the signals from the Empire's scouts reached the United Nations, the reality began to set in. A few military and scientific leaders had suspected the truth. The increased reports of strange phenomena in the sky, the sudden flickering of lights, the mysterious disappearances of satellites, had raised alarms. A global meeting of the world's most powerful leaders was called to discuss the implications. At the center of the gathering was a man named Gabriel Markov, a diplomat from the United States, who had a reputation for being both pragmatic and unshakable under pressure. Markov's appearance at the summit was a rare one. His lean frame and sharp features, always thoughtful, betrayed the weight of his recent discovery. He had been the first to decode some of the intercepted transmissions, fragments of a language that was as complex as it was elegant. What he had uncovered terrified him. The humans had not simply stumbled upon the Empire's attention. They had caught it. And the Empire's gaze was never forgiving. The meeting was tense, filled with the cacophony of conflicting voices. Some urged immediate action, preparing Earth's defenses in secrecy, while others, wary of provoking an advanced force they couldn't begin to understand, suggested a more diplomatic approach. Markov stood silent for a moment. Then, with a grave expression, spoke. "They don't want peace," he said, his voice low, but carrying the weight of authority. "They never do. They want submission, or they want destruction. The only question is whether we're ready to show them that we are not the weak, divided species they think we are." The room fell into uneasy silence. For the first time, humanity faced a threat that couldn't be ignored, a force capable of erasing entire civilizations with a thought. The human race had survived wars, plagues, and countless natural disasters, but this was different. This wasn't a fight between nations. It was a fight for survival against an enemy that viewed them as inconsequential. Markov's words set the tone for the human response. A decision was made. Rather than cower in fear, humanity would send a message to the Empire, a warning that would echo across the stars. Earth would not bow. It was not an act of defiance alone. It was a statement, one that would define the human spirit. We may be small, but we are not to be underestimated. The message would be crafted carefully, the words chosen with precision. It would be a declaration that the Empire, in all its might, would find no easy victory on Earth. As the Galactic Empire's fleet readied itself for the journey to Earth, they had no inkling of the resolve waiting for them. Their arrogance, their conviction that no species could challenge their rule, would soon be shattered. And so, the stage was set. The Empire would come. But so would humanity's answer, a message of warning that would ripple through the vast emptiness of space. The journey of the Galactic Empire toward Earth had begun, and humanity, once a mere footnote in the Empire's records, was about to show them what it meant to be truly dangerous. The message from the Galactic Empire had arrived with all the grandeur and cold precision that defined their approach. Delivered in a series of elegant broadcasts, the Empire's diplomatic envoy made their intentions clear. Earth was to be assimilated into the Empire. Their tone was calm, calculated, and utterly devoid of empathy, as if the fate of a planet held no more weight than a simple military campaign. The humans, they said, were invited to join the Empire's order, to benefit from the protection of its vast reach. Or, should they refuse, they would face the consequences. The message was an ultimatum. Yet, despite the arrogance and superiority that the Empire conveyed, the response was not one of submission. It was instead defiance. Gabriel Markov sat alone in his office, staring at the encrypted transmission on his screen. His fingers hovered over the keys, uncertain of how to proceed. The weight of his decision pressed heavily on his shoulders. The fate of Earth was now in his hands. The United Nations had called for a response, but they had deferred to him, the diplomat who had first uncovered the Empire's interest in Earth. He had been a man of compromise, of negotiation, a bridge between divided nations. But this was different. This was not about finding common ground. This was about survival. Across the world, leaders met in secret. There was no longer time for diplomacy. The human race could not afford to be passive, not when facing a force that had crushed countless civilizations before them. But as the calls for military readiness grew louder, Markov remained resolute. He knew what had to be done. Markov's mind raced as he considered the message he would send. A warning, not a plea, but a demand. The Empire had misjudged humanity, and it was time to make that clear. He drafted the message carefully, choosing each word with precision. To the Galactic Empire, we are not your subjects. We are not your prey. We are humanity. You will find that we will not bow. We will not yield. Our strength lies in our will to survive, to adapt, and to fight. We warn you, stay far, far away. It was simple but powerful, a reflection of humanity's spirit. He sent it through every channel he could access, ensuring it would reach the Empire's ears in the most direct way possible. As he hit send, he felt a strange mixture of fear and pride. The message had been sent, but would it be enough? Would it be heard? Meanwhile, across Earth, the reactions were swift. The transmission had ignited something deep within the human race. People, who had for so long been divided by borders, politics, and ideologies, were suddenly united in a way they had never been before. News outlets, once focused on trivial concerns, now broadcasted the message from Markov, the defiant words echoing across every corner of the planet. Social media erupted with an outpouring of support. No longer were humans divided by their differences. They were united by one common cause: the preservation of their world, of their species. Lena Kater, a former military strategist and now a civilian leader in the newly formed Earth Defense Coalition, watched the broadcast with a fire in her eyes. She had spent years studying military tactics, not as a soldier, but as a strategist who understood the cost of war. The Empire was an adversary unlike any the world had ever faced, and the stakes were higher than they had ever been. But Lena had no intention of letting Earth fall without a fight. She knew their chances were slim, but she also knew the human capacity for ingenuity was unmatched. If anyone could find a way to stand up to the Empire, it was humanity. She gathered her closest advisors, drawing together scientists, engineers, and military veterans alike, forming a coalition of minds that would spearhead humanity's defense. In an underground facility, deep within the bowels of an old military complex, a group of engineers worked tirelessly. They had been preparing for this moment long before the Empire's arrival had been confirmed. What they lacked in technology compared to the Empire, they made up for with creativity and resourcefulness. Alexei Korolov, a brilliant inventor and engineer, had been at the forefront of the development of Earth's new defense systems. He had studied the Empire's technology as best as he could from the limited data available and had found one common thread: overconfidence. The Empire relied too heavily on their advanced weaponry, their technology, their superiority. But they had underestimated the human ability to adapt, to reverse engineer, and to turn even the most seemingly simple tools into formidable weapons. Korolov and his team had begun building weapons that utilized old technology, repurposed and enhanced with new ideas. They created drones that could mimic the electromagnetic signatures of Earth's weather systems, allowing them to blend in undetected. They developed weapons that used unconventional energy sources the Empire's sensors would fail to detect. They were creating a defense system that would take the Empire completely by surprise, a system that played to humanity's greatest strength: their ability to think outside the box, to solve problems in ways their enemies could never predict. The first clash came sooner than expected. The Empire, as had been predicted, dismissed the warning. Their arrogance clouded their judgment. They sent a single flagship, the Zephyron, into Earth's orbit, accompanied by a small fleet of advanced warships. The plan was simple: intimidate, demonstrate power, and force humanity to submit. But as the fleet descended, it found a world that was not lying in wait, helpless. It found a world that had mobilized. The Empire's sensors detected nothing unusual at first. Earth appeared as it always had, a small, insignificant planet on the edge of the galaxy. But then, as the fleet neared, the first wave of human counterattack struck. Lena, standing at the command center, watched as the screens filled with data. The first Empire ship was disabled by a surprise electromagnetic pulse, a weapon the Empire had not accounted for. The Empire's ships retaliated, but humanity's defense systems, unexpected, untraceable, fought back with a precision that stunned them. The human race, it seemed, was not as helpless as they had believed. The Empire's fleet, now in disarray, tried to adapt, but the more they engaged, the more they realized how little they understood about their opponents. The humans fought with a passion that transcended logic, a force born from the very survival instincts that had driven their evolution. Gabriel Markov stood before the transmission screen, watching as the first wave of Empire ships retreated. It was only the beginning, but it was a victory, however small. He knew the war was far from over, but one thing had become clear: humanity was not going to bow. And no matter how powerful the Empire thought it was, they had underestimated the one thing that made humanity unique: their refusal to surrender. The Empire's retreat was only temporary. They had underestimated the resilience of humanity, but that would soon change. Velkon, watching the chaos unfold from her command ship, understood the gravity of the situation. She had seen rebellions fall, planets burn, and species cower, but Earth had proven different. The human spirit, once thought to be weak, had become an unrelenting force, and for the first time in her long career, she felt doubt. The humans had no right to challenge the Empire's might. Yet here they were, fighting with an ingenuity that outpaced the Empire's advanced technologies. She knew that in order to break them, she would have to show them the true extent of the Empire's power. Back on Earth, the mood had shifted. What began as a desperate defense had turned into a determined campaign of resistance. Lena Cater stood at the helm of Earth's most advanced defense command, overseeing the construction of new weapons and systems that the Empire could never have predicted. Her team of engineers, scientists, and military strategists worked tirelessly, understanding that the battle was not just about survival. It was about proving to the universe that humanity could stand against anyone who threatened its existence. The moment they realized the Empire wasn't just interested in Earth's resources, but in its destruction, the fight was no longer about diplomacy or negotiations. It was about defending their future. Alexei Korolov, his hands stained with oil and sweat, surveyed the latest creation, a weapon unlike any the Empire had seen before. It was a hybrid, combining Earth's most basic technology with innovations that no one, not even the Empire's most brilliant minds, could have anticipated. Korolov knew the truth. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their ability to invent. It was their ability to adapt, to turn the simplest tools into instruments of survival. And now, with Earth's future hanging in the balance, the human race had evolved into something far more dangerous than the Empire had ever imagined. The next battle would be decisive. The Empire's fleet was massive, far larger than anything humanity had ever faced. Yet, the Empire's pride had become its downfall. They arrived in Earth's orbit, once again confident in their superiority, but this time, they were not met by mere humans armed with outdated weapons. They were met by a humanity that had learned to fight with everything they had, a humanity that had learned to think in ways their enemies could not comprehend. The first wave of the Empire's ships descended, but the defenses humanity had built were ready. Missiles designed to disrupt the Empire's advanced technology rained down on the ships, disabling their shields and weapons. The humans had studied every available piece of Empire technology, reverse engineering it with the precision of a species that had survived millennia of adversity. The first attack was a success. The Empire's ships, once thought invincible, were now vulnerable. Gabriel Markov stood at the command center, watching the chaos unfold on the screens. He had once been a man of diplomacy, of negotiation, but now he was a leader in a war that spanned the stars. His hands were steady, his mind sharp. He had seen the worst of humanity, but he had also seen its greatest strength. The drive to protect, to survive, to win against all odds. He knew that if they were to win this battle, it would take everything they had. There could be no retreat, no surrender. This was the moment when humanity would show the galaxy who they truly were. Lena Cater, on the battlefield, led the charge. She stood tall among the soldiers, her mind racing through the tactics she had spent years studying. She understood that this wasn't just a war for survival. It was a war for the very identity of humanity. If they lost, they would be erased, nothing more than a footnote in the Empire's vast history. If they won, the galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. As the battle raged on, the Empire began to falter. Their advanced weapons, their superior technology, none of it mattered when the enemy refused to die, when the enemy fought with a desperation that made them unpredictable. The Empire's fleet, once so confident in its power, found itself losing ground. Their ships were damaged, their commanders were confused, and their troops were stretched thin. Humanity had turned the tide, not with might alone, but with creativity, with determination, and with an unyielding spirit. Velkan watched from her flagship, fury boiling in her veins. She had thought this would be easy. Earth was just another conquest, another step in the Empire's expansion. She had been wrong. The humans were unlike anything the Empire had faced before. They were not easily broken. She would not admit defeat, not yet. But as she looked at the retreating fleet, she realized something. The Empire's once unchallenged power was no longer absolute. The humans had shattered their arrogance, and now they were on the brink of victory. The final battle took place in the skies above Earth, where the remaining Empire ships fought desperately to hold their ground. Velkan ordered her fleet to converge on Earth's atmosphere, hoping to crush humanity's resistance once and for all. But by now, humanity's defenses were fully operational. The last of the Empire's ships fell one by one, unable to counter the sheer unpredictability of the human tactics. The Empire had been forced to rely on brute strength, and in doing so, they had left themselves vulnerable to the very thing they had never understood: human ingenuity. Markov stood on the balcony of the command center, watching as the last of the Empire's ships retreated into the depths of space. It was over. The human race had won. The Empire, so sure of its dominance, had been humbled. The galaxy would know Earth's name now, not as a primitive world to be conquered, but as a force to be reckoned with. Lena Cater, standing beside him, shared a look of quiet satisfaction. The war had been brutal, and many lives had been lost. But in the end, humanity had proved something far more important than their ability to fight. They had proven that they would never be cowed, never be subjugated. The Empire had underestimated them, and now it was the Empire that would retreat into the shadows. But even in victory, the questions lingered. What would come next for Earth? The galaxy had seen the strength of humanity, but would it be enough to ensure lasting peace? The humans had fought for their survival, but they had also sent a message that would echo across the stars. Asterisk, we are not your prey. We are humanity, and we will never be your subjects, asterisk. The stars, once silent, now seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the next chapter to unfold.